This is Mac OS Ken.
News from the financial front, a fine and a remodel for Apple in France, and new and returning titles for Apple TV Plus. It is Thursday, the 5th of January, 2023. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Notion. Get organized now with a free account at notion.com/macosken. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macosken. Apple barely returns to $2 trillion market cap after dip. So said an Apple Insider headline on Wednesday. It's kind of funny to me since it was barely under $2 trillion on Tuesday. End of trading on the 3rd of January, Apple's market valuation stood at $1.99 trillion. 24 hours later, it was $2.01 trillion. It's almost like it barely moved. One of the most bullish Apple bulls has reassessed the climb. Apple 3.0 ran part of a note from Wedbush analyst Daniel Ives on Wednesday, wherein he cut his price target on Apple shares in a pretty big way. Not his rating on the company, he is still into it. But Apple's currently trading around $126. His price target had been $200, and that is a steep climb in 12 months. Especially, it seems, the 12 months ahead. Quoting his note, with the fears of a softer holiday December quarter around the corner on China supply chain shortages, the street continues to sell off the stock in an unabated fashion, with worries around an uncertain 2023 ahead for Cupertino. Our Asia supply chain checks are clearly mixed heading into the next few quarters, and Cupertino appears to be cutting back on some orders around Macs, iPads, and AirPods over the coming quarters to reflect a softer consumer backdrop. Not that all of the news is bad. iPhone 14 Pro demand appears to be more stable than feared in his estimation. That said, he sees potential weakness for iPhone overall, pointing to the perceived strikeout that is the iPhone 14 Plus. Honestly, his note is kind of all over the place. He's worried about the sell-off and consumer strength. At the same time, he says he and his believe the overall demand environment is more resilient than the street is anticipating. They also believe the massive amount of bad news ahead is already baked into the stock. He really didn't want to change his price target, it seems. And yet, quoting his note again, on a sum of the parts valuation, we continue to believe $200 is the right valuation for Apple, reflecting its core services business with a base case valuation in the $175 range. We are lowering our price target from $200 to $175, reflecting a more base case valuation in this uncertain environment as some demand headwinds start to creep into the Cupertino growth story. He wraps the note saying, Apple remains our favorite tech name, and we maintain our Outperform rating. One more month of this until we hear something from Apple. The Cupertino company updated its investor relations page on Wednesday, saying when the next earnings report and associated call will be. Earnings for the much-troubled December quarter will drop via press release on Thursday, the 2nd of February. Groundhog Day, if you can believe it. The numbers will hit after the bell, 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific. Folks get 30 minutes to snack on those. Then comes the call. Apple execs will join Apple watching financial analysts at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific for color, questions, and fingers crossed, answers. You can listen to that as it happens on Apple's site. The company will make it available as a podcast soon after. And of course, we will go over the big points right here on the 3rd of February, which I believe is Groundhog Boxing Day. Apple has been hit with an €8 million fine in France. 9 to 5 Mac says the Cupertino company has been penalized the equivalent of $8.5 million US over the way it used to serve personalized ads in iOS. In a statement posted Wednesday, the country's National Commission on Informatics and Liberty said it had found that under the old version, 14.6 of the iPhone operating system, when a user went to the App Store, identifiers for several purposes, including purposes of customizing advertising ads displayed on the App Store, were by default automatically read on the terminal without collecting consent. The country settled on the penalty amount of €8 million based on the number of people affected, as well as the amount Apple makes on ads. While the $8.5 million may seem like chump change for the Cupertino company, it is not an amount Apple is interested in paying. Apple issued a statement saying, "We are disappointed with the decision, given the Commission has previously recognized that how we serve search ads in the App Store prioritizes user privacy, and we will appeal." One Apple store in France is going dark for a bit, apparently. Apple Insider cites a report from Mac Generation saying Apple Confluence in Lyon will close mid-month to be refreshed. The store still sports the classic look, aluminum walls, and the old wooden tables, according to the piece. Details of the remodel aren't known, according to Apple Insider, but Apple will likely update this 1,200 square meter store to be more in line with its other mall-based stores. Staff will apparently be moved to other stores in the city during renovations. Nothing official on this from Apple, though Mac Generation says staff has been notified. They've also reportedly been told to warn customers of the closing when handling repairs. Apple Insider says the Apple Confluence store is expected to close for at least 2 months, starting on the 15th of January. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, Notion, a great tool for you in the new year. New year, new you? That seems like a lot. Yet even the most cynical among us can't help but consider new projects, new habits, new ideas in a new year. New tools could help. Tools like Notion. Whether you're starting a new gym routine, organizing a trip with friends, or even planning your company goals, Notion is a flexible, collaborative workspace that helps you make meaningful progress in every part of your life. Get started in seconds by choosing from thousands of templates for every task, then make it your own, from to-do lists to OKR trackers, and so much more. Notion lets you build the exact system you want so you can work the way you work best. I found Notion to be intuitive, and it's been a great tool for collaborating with others. But see for yourself. Start your year off right and get organized now with a free Notion account at notion.com/macOSCan. That's all lowercase letters, notion.com/macOSCan to learn more and get started for free right now. Using that link supports this show. Go right now to notion.com/macOSCan. News of new and returning titles from Apple TV Plus, starting with one that is not TV. The Cupertino streamer issued a press release Wednesday announcing a new original podcast. The podcast, Operation Tradebom, tracks the investigation into the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center and how this first attempt to bring down the towers changed our world forever. It's pretty fair to say that this is the forgotten World Trade Center bombing, overshadowed as it was by 9/11 and its aftermath. That said, the description of the podcast does sound compelling. The release says Operation Tradebom tracks the arrival of terrorism to American shores through the voices of those who watched it happen firsthand, from Cairo in 1981 to downtown New York City on 9/11. The show was hosted by Emmy winner and Academy Award nominee Mark Smerling. The first 2 of the podcast's 9 episodes premiere next Monday, the 9th of January. The other 7 will follow 1 episode per week. You can catch a trailer for Operation Tradebom on Apple Podcasts. News of a new kids series from Apple TV Plus. In a press release Wednesday, the streaming service announced Shape Island. The release describes the show, saying this clever, funny, and inspiring new stop-motion animated series from Apple TV Plus takes place on a charming island and invites viewers to join Serious Square, Intrepid Circle, and Tricky Triangle on their silly adventures as they dig up some fun, search for answers, and build on their friendship, all while learning how to navigate each other's differences. Shape Island shows kids that friendship can take many shapes. Based on the internationally best-selling picture books from Mark Barnett and John Klassen, the show Shape Island hits Apple TV Plus on Friday, the 20th of January. And finally today, Apple TV Plus has teased the return of one of its most ambitious series. Apple Insider points readers to a teaser for Season 2 of Foundation. You probably remember this one, but just in case you don't, the piece says based on the award-winning novels by Isaac Asimov, Foundation chronicles a group of exiles on their journey to save humanity and rebuild civilization amid the fall of the Galactic Empire. It's hard to tell what in the teaser is scenes from Season 1 versus scenes from the second season. Doesn't make it less exciting, though. No hard release date for Season 2, just summer 2023. You can see the teaser now on YouTube. Today on the Mac Observer's Daily Observations podcast, have you suffered from butterfly damage? TMO writer Nick DeCorval joins me to talk over Apple's in-process butterfly keyboard settlement. Plus, Wedbush analyst Daniel Ives calls iPhone 14 Plus a strikeout. Others call it a failure. I've got this crazy idea that Apple might know what it's doing. Nick and I discuss it on the Daily Observations podcast from the Mac Observer, online at macobserver.com or wherever you get podcasts. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Notion. Get organized now with a free account at notion.com/macOSCan. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSCan. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macoscan.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.